As I'm recording this, we're about a week and a half away past when the Palisades Fire and the Eaton Fire and all of those different fires that started in Los Angeles really ignited. And my guest today that I'm going to be talking to is Dennis Doty. He works for NBC Universal, and he works for the TV station, their flagship West Coast TV station in Los Angeles, that's actually up at Mount Wilson. Now, if you really haven't been paying too close attention to the broadcast community in the last week and a half, you may not have known Mount Wilson had the fire come right up to it. And there was a lot of concern from the community, the broadcast community, that is Mount Wilson going to survive? So Dennis weathered this fire and has a lot of good insight on how to prepare your facility and how to be prepared personally. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Nice.
Good to see you. So thank you for sitting down and chatting with me. And so Dennis, tell me, who do you work for and what do you do?
I'm the broadcast engineer up on Mount Wilson for NBC Universal, and that entails operating for KNBC, their flagship station here on the West Coast, along with Telemundo 52, one of their other flagship stations.
So you have a few stations to take care of.
Yeah, a couple little ones.
So if I understand this correctly, you are up there for multiple days, right? It's a manned facility, basically?
It's a semi-manned facility. Technically, we're here 4 days a week, 10 hours a day, typically, unless something's going on. But when there's a weather event or a fire, as we're in now, I'll come up a couple days before or as late, somewhere in the window of getting up here safely, and go through the event to ensure that we're manned during those events.
You know, as we're recording this, it's just been like a week and a half since the fires kind of approached Mount Wilson, and that was that the Palisades or the Eaton Fire?
It's the Eaton Fire.
That fire approached Mount Wilson, and there were a lot of held breaths, if you will, in the broadcast community to see what would happen. So,
yeah,
you found yourself up there. You know, you were up there because of your normal shift or special?
Well, I came up early. It was part of my normal shift, but I came up early Tuesday due to the predicted power shutoff, what we call PSPS, Public Safety Power Shutoff. So they shut off the power to the mountain about 4 o'clock Tuesday afternoon. So when we go on generator, we want to make sure someone's here to monitor the generators. We have 3 generators on site, and so I came up Tuesday morning before the Eaton Fire had started, or the Pacific Palisades Fire hadn't even started yet at that point.
Yeah, because it was expected to be really high winds and dry conditions, and yeah.
Correct. We were expected to get the Santa Anas coming in with the dry conditions and high fire danger, so they do the PSPS, and hopefully most of the time we get through those without a problem. But this one was different.
Yeah, I know. I'm from Southern California, so I'm always kind of watching what's happening back home, if you will.
Of course.
And started watching all this wind kick up and the conditions, and so I've been riveted to watching what's going on and kind of keeping up. But so what was it, the second day or the third day of the fire that it came up to Wilson?
So it came up to Wilson, I believe it was like the third or fourth day of the fire. So the Eaton Fire started, I want to say Tuesday night, late in the middle of the Pacific Palisades Fire. And we could see the ridge line it was burning on was between us and the city. Obviously, with heavy winds to the southwest, we knew that we weren't in immediate danger because it's going to have to fight against those winds. And it burned, within a couple hours. It was into Altadena, parts of Pasadena, and the interface into the city, the urban interface. So we weren't too worried, with that going on. We knew we had some time, and it just had to be monitored. We did step up our fuel deliveries at that point, knowing that we were going to have some stuff coming. But again, it was hurry up and wait, and we do a lot of weed abatement here at NBC, not as good as some of our other partners up here on Mount Wilson and Mount Harvard, but we do a lot every year. So that comes into play that we knew the site is defensible. We have our own fire personnel that work out at Universal City that come up here and evaluate the site. And so we know we're in a good place. So it's a matter of just hurry up and wait.
Yeah. So you were up there and it started to approach the site. And what was your thought of, like, did you feel at any time, like, okay, I need to get out of here, or?
No. I know the site really well. Again, our plan is to shelter in place, and the site's been deemed defensible. Worst case scenario, we have what's called Skyline Park, which is a big parking lot over by the observatory. You may have seen on some of the videos. So if things got too hot here, you can go over there. There's going to be fire personnel over there. If you need to get a helicopter out, that's where they're going to take you out. There's also a big shelter in the 100-inch dome at the observatory down in the basement that's concrete. So there's a couple places to go shelter if things did get too hot. But again, this is a metal building, metal and concrete, built in 1946, I think, or something. I'm not really worried about being here. I've got 5,000 gallons, 6,500 gallons in total of water stored on site. We've got a diesel pump that'll run 2.5-inch lines at full pressure. So pretty safe here.
Now, I'm sure that wasn't just something that was in the last month that you've put in. This is all just years of preparation.
So I've been here 18 years, just shy of 18 years. And the fire pumps and most of the stuff was here when I came here. They've been upgraded over my tenure and maintained. But NBC has always been very adamant that this site will be maintained properly and made defensible. That's
really good that the ownership of the station believes in making sure that the site is taken care of.
Yeah. I've really been happy with my employers. They've given me what I need up here, and that's rare in our industry, as you know. You usually have to be willing to chop off an arm or a leg and break out your own wallet to make things happen, and that's not how we operate.
So as your time there kind of leading up to this past week, what preparations and plans have you done, or have you worked with your ownership to make the site more defensible and more prepared for something like this?
Mainly it's ongoing. We do our yearly weed abatement. If we see something that's bad, we address it right then. We have janitorial service. A lot of sites don't have janitorial service. So, we have somebody up here twice a week cleaning around the site, in the site, taking off the trash. So it's really just being a good steward and taking care of the property as we should.
That's really, really good. Is kind of a side question, is the building and the property that it sits on owned by NBC? Is it like leased from, like American Tower, et cetera?
No, we own the property.
Okay, so you've got a lot more leverage to do things.
Yeah, and we've got a little more stake in the game, that this is our property. We're responsible for it. American Tower tries to do a good job, but they're just so overwhelmed with the number of sites. There's only so much you can do. I.e., Mount Harvard, took a little bit of a beating. There was no major problems. Again, it's a concrete metal building. It's not going anywhere. They had some lines burn and some stuff like that, but very minor in the scope of everything.
Have you had any personal preparations? Like, have you taken any fire classes, et cetera?
Yeah, we're required to take advanced courses in first aid, fire, how to fight a small fire, fire extinguisher operation, fire pump operation. We have defibrillators in our facilities. We carry defibrillators in our company vehicles, so we're trained on that yearly, CPR, the whole 9 yards. So training is a high priority for NBC Universal.
That's really, really good. That's impressive that they would be pushing that type of training.
And no expense is overlooked for, hey, this is what we need. Well, it costs a lot of money. Well, too bad, we're doing it. We're going to keep our people safe. I'm even trained for tower climbing, except, every year I get certified on tower climbing. I'm not allowed to climb, but I'm certified every year on tower climbing. I'm giving you gear as needed because there may be an instance where something has to be done. So they're a very proactive company versus a lot of our other broadcasters in many markets. As you know, we become reactive due to budgets. Yeah. And once you're behind the eight ball on something, it's really hard to get back in front of it. But in preparation, there has to be a lot of personal preparation too, because you may not be able to get off this hill for a period of time. So you need, used to it wasn't a big deal for me, but now I have to take certain medications. So you need to make sure you have enough of those medications and enough food. During the Snowmageddon we had a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Right. Our one of our broadcasters up here with another station, he ran out of food day one. He didn't expect to get trapped up here. So fortunately, I had enough food, and there's some people that live up here as well, and they had enough food. And he would have lunch with me and dinner with them, or dinner with me and lunch with them, and we kept them fed, and we all took care of each other, and that's what Mount Wilson's about right now. We're competitors, but we're one. And so like Marty from Scripps Ion, he's dealing with all the fuel deliveries. He's going site by site with the fuel truck every day, making sure people get what they've ordered and need. And other engineers don't have to be up here, or can't be up here. We're taking care of them. Fox, they've been in and out a few times, but they check in with me and, hey, we're leaving for a while. And if they need something, I'll go over there and take care of it. That's part of the deal. Of course, my employer comes first, but this place runs really well. So I'm able to run over here and take care of something for somebody, or, go over to the county yard and help them and stuff like that.
And that's something that I know in LA the engineering community is really a community. When somebody needs help, there is help. I'm not sure if that's the way in a lot of markets, but I know that that's something that's really rescued a lot of people in the LA area, that community.
I think it is a community nationwide almost. I think there's some GMs at some stations that you're not going to help the enemy. But what they don't see, too bad. We're brothers in this. We're going to help each other despite what our management may tell us sometimes. Right. A good example, and our head of RF is Doug Lung, and he's well respected in the entire community. And we were talking last night, and he brought up 9/11, and he goes, we come together when we have to. And 9/11 was a perfect example of that. We had just lost the primary transmission facilities for the New York area. And within hours and days, everybody got together to get back on the air. And antenna manufacturers were making antennas, and Dielectric, Comarch, Rhodey to the lesser at the time because they were smaller in the market, but Harris, everybody was pulling anything they could. Oh, hey, we know where a transmitter's at that's not in use. We got a crew going ripping it out right now. We got a tower company coming. Dielectric's putting some antennas together. So similar here, we all come together to ensure that, one, we're safe. That's the ultimate goal for all of us as brothers in this, is that I go home and you go home. And then secondly is that we provide our community with what we're tasked to do. People are looking to us to know it's going to be okay. It's not going to be okay, but we'll try to let you know what's good, what's bad, and get the word out to the community.
And like I said, that's something I've appreciated because it's rescued my bacon when I was in LA.
Well, yeah, we've talked before, and we stationed fire in 2009, Bobcat fire in 2020, the fires you've had down towards Palomar and Santiago and all that. It's something that we go through quite often here. And then earthquakes, which fortunately we haven't had too many.
That's the other season in Southern California, right? Fires, earthquakes.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Summer. Hi, I'm going to take a moment here and recognize the sponsor of today's video, LinkUp Communications. When your content has to get to your audience, you can count on their content distribution using XDS and other industry-leading platforms. LinkUp has provided distribution solutions with the highest degree of reliability for over 3 decades. If you're wanting more information about their services or just who are they, visit their website at linkupcommunications.com. And now, back to the video. I know you've got a kind of a unique situation with how much your employer has invested in your preparedness and the facility's preparedness. Is there anything that you feel that someone who kind of doesn't necessarily have that strong backing behind them that they could do to be prepared for a fire, for example? Because, that'll impact almost any site, anywhere, or, in general, any other type of severe weather or disaster.
Well, I think the key to all of that is, one, defensible space. Mm-hmm. You don't have to hire a landscape company for $10,000 a year to make this defensible space. Little weeding, a little cutting the tree, trimming the trees back. They don't got to be cut down. They just need trimmed back. It's some it's some back-breaking work that a lot of us don't want to do, but it goes a little bit goes a long way. My site is not clear-cut by any way, shape, or means. I've got trees around it. I've got piles of leaves on the side of the road. Not one leaf's burned.
Oh, wow.
The fire was 12 feet away with 80-foot flame leaks. It doesn't take a lot. It just takes a little to go a long way. Keeping your sites clean. We've been to some sites that they got, the boxes from the transmitter they bought in 1972 were still outside. Remove those fuel loads. Get them out of there. Just be a good steward. Take care of your site, and it goes a long way. An hour a month goes a long way. And, and it shows here. A lot of sites do not do good brush clearance up here to the standards that we should do them to. They're fine. Everybody's fine. So a little bit goes a long way.
I do know there was that one building, across the street from you or from the post office?
It's down the street about 200 yards, and on the cliffside. It's been an eyesore and a problem for a long time, unfortunately. It gets tagged with graffiti on a daily basis. I think one of the reasons that site went up was there was no brush clearance. The brush was grown right up to it. It's on the slope. So as we know, fire loves going up. And it probably had 900,000 coats of paint on it.
Wow.
Because it gets tagged literally daily, and they'll repaint it every couple weeks, every couple months. So, I mean, it just had to have so much paint on that exterior wood that it went up quick. I mean, from the first picture I saw of their fire there, it was gone in like 10 minutes.
Oh, my gosh.
And I mean, gone. Just, there was nothing left. I was like, oh, wow. Well, in fact, my comment on Facebook was, well, that problem's gone, And I feel for the owners, don't get me wrong. I feel for the tenants and everything. But again, had they done some brush clearance around the site, it would still be there.
And I think it was interesting that you mentioned that you guys do it yearly. I mean, you're not out there every other week, doing all this stuff. So just like you were saying, a little bit of prevention will go a long way.
Yeah, this was last done in July and August. They were a little late this year. I had some problems with my contractor. Typically, I want to get them in here in May and June. You don't want to get in too early. You get in and do it in April, you're going to have the same stuff back there in May or June. So you really want to wait till the rain's over, the heat's coming, and the stuff kind of stops growing a little. But again, any little bit helps. And every year you start getting more and more ahead of it. You're reducing those fuel loads. I had some arguments with some people over at Harvard because they were over there putting out smoldering stuff. And it's like, the fire guys are letting that smolder for a reason. You can't get down in there. This is a good time to remove those fuels.
Right.
So if you go put out that smoldering stuff, now you got charcoal down in there. Fire comes again, and that really wants to light now because it's already been conditioned. Right. So fire science, do a little studying, YouTube you. It'll teach you a lot, but those kinds of things need to be in your mind.
I do believe there is it's like a Fire 101 class that you could do online from, oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking on their name. It's the one that it's like part of the classes that you take as a wildland firefighter, but it's like the 101, the basic. It just goes over, basic fire behavior and things like that. I took that class online a few years ago, and it's like I don't look at hillsides the same anymore. I'm like, look, that's a chimney right there. Fire's going to race right up that.
Yeah, and we are sitting on top of a big chimney here at Mount Wilson. We got the north side that's a 3,000 foot, 2,500 foot rise straight up, from Red Box coming up the canyon there. And that came into play with the station fire quite a bit because it came around that side. So understanding the fire science, and you don't have to be a genius about it or nothing or an expert, but it comes to logic. And I think all of us, if we're in this position, should have a little bit of logic knowledge and understand some basics. Yeah. And that's all you need to know is fire goes up, things burn, like trees. A lot of people, their whole thing is take the tree out. Well, you just created a new problem because now the soil is going to become dry. It's going to get baked. It's going to become hydrophobic. It's not going to hold water. And now the grasses around there are going to become drier. Where if you just cut the branches back to 7-8 feet to the lowest branch, that tree will not burn because it can't get enough heat up into the branches to go. Right. So everything burns around it, which you want to get rid of anyway, and the fire moves on. We saw that quite well this year at Blue Ridge. Fire came through really fast. All the low brush burned off. The trees were cut back high. Not one tree burned. Not one site burned. So compared to San Diego, which had a lot of scrub brush, low trees, low hanging branches, and we lost the site up there. We didn't, but the industry lost a crown castle site up there. So again, the basics of fire science will really take you a long way.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting thing to see in Southern California, the fires that come through. And, sometimes we get complacent, and because, it's been 20 years since, we've had a fire. Well, like for Santiago Peak, for example, it was what?
Yeah.
2012 or something like that, or 2018 or whatever it was. And then just again.
It was a while. Yeah.
And I remember when that first fire happened, Forest Service was up there. They trimmed everything back. I mean, it was great. And then they let it go, and we weren't allowed to really do anything. And they had to do it again for the most recent one, and that one took out a building.
And that's one of that's one of the problems in California, and we are starting to see a sea change in that, where they're doing more prescribed burns in the Angeles and around California. But I think there was a guy that said, "Hey, you guys need to rake your forest out there." He was right. Yeah. We do need to do forest management. That's what U.S. Forest Service should be doing, is forest management. And that includes prescribed burns and removing the fuels. We did that in 2009 during and after the station fire up here on Wilson. A lot of people don't know Wilson was written off during the station fire.
Oh, wow.
The U.S. government said it was not defensible, and they pulled everybody out at one point.
Wow.
And then there was conversations between the broadcasters, the State Department, and a number of agencies where said, we can't lose it because we've already lost other key mountaintops in the region. And if we lose Wilson, we're in a really bad spot. And that's when the White House deemed the Mount Wilson Fire Group, and they sent us all the resources, and they said, we will protect Wilson at all costs and steer the fire around it. And but they had written it off. I still got the letter, evacuate, we're pulling everybody out. And it was like, no, you don't seem to understand. And it was a dicey few hours. Arnold Schwarzenegger was involved, and the sheriff was involved, and all of the broadcasters were involved. We have people in DC, obviously, and everybody was like, whoa, wait a minute, I understand the risk, but and they had huge macerators ripping trees down and cutting back bushes. Wow. And they came through here and cleaned up a lot. Thank God, that's really helped. But then on the other hand of that, they put Phosgenic down everywhere. Phosgenic has seed in it. So now you're spurting a whole nother growth of sometimes invasive species. And so it's this whole cycle that has to be managed. Unfortunately, our government's not the best at managing that due to politics. And there's no room for politics in this. This is people and information and communications, and there's only one way to do it, and it's do it the right way and protect it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to keep you too long. I know you're trying to get home.
No problem. It's okay. I'm going to go down for a few hours. I've got my relief, was able to make it up for a day, and I'm going to go home, refill the medicine chest and all that stuff. Off the record, I don't know if you know, I had a heart attack about a month and a half ago. So I'm on a whole bunch of medicine now, and that's a real pain in the ass.
Well, I'm glad to see you upright and active.
Yeah, I was back here 4 days after it. So, broadcast engineers were not the brightest people in the world.
Vacation? What's that? Sickness? Nah.
Yeah, I've got 80 days of vacation right now. That's owed to me. The company was not happy when I told them I was coming back to work after the heart attack, and they're like, no, you need to stay home for a while. And I'm like, well, they didn't tell me I couldn't. Oh, damn it. So they've learned to deal with me.
But then again, you're like, okay, now what do I do? You get antsy, like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing what I normally do.
Yeah. No, it was a very bad heart attack, but I got there in time.
Good.
Got a couple stents put in. I feel better than I have in probably 40
Oh,
years.
wow, great.
So, one of those things. But
I'm glad to still have you around.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Although, it was kind of peaceful when I faded away.
One last thing I want to kind of touch on. I just thought about it right now. I know you had mentioned that you do a lot for your neighbors there up in Mount Wilson. You and a couple of others kind of seem to be like I don't want to say like the dad of the of the mountain, but like kind of a core group of caretakers of that hilltop. Between you, I don't know if Larry Lopez is still around doing his thing.
No, Larry retired a couple of years ago. But you got Craig Woods over at the observatory.
Okay,
so
the observatory.
they have their operations. I'm pretty much the key for the broadcast side. You got Todd Smith with LA County Public Works that keeps our roads open up here and handles all that. So we all work really close together. Marty from Ion Scripts, he's very active in what goes on up here. And I think it comes down to we have the best financial support behind us, where most stations, they don't have the budgets to be able to support somebody going to Mount Wilson on a continuous basis. So they become reactive and, oh crap, we're off there. We got to go up there,
Right.
And then the site starts to go downhill. Now, unfortunately for a lot, they rent from American Tower. And so, it's not their job to really clean the site. But American Tower is also only able to do so much. I mean, what do they have? 30 or 40,000 sites around the world. I think Joe Taylor, who runs the broadcast site out here on the West Coast, has like 900 sites he has to take care of. Well, how can you visit 900 sites every year? You can't. It's impossible. And, they trust their contractors and vendors to be taking care of the facilities. And sometimes they're not to the standards they should be. So I'm in a really unique position that we don't see very often. I mean, we don't even see it in NBC Universal. This is the only site that has a dedicated engineer to it. Not even New York. New York, fortunately, you jump on the subway from 30 Rock and you're at One World in a few minutes. It's not a big deal. Same with, our operations in Chicago. Similar, even our operations in Denver, the sites out in the cow pasture, it's not hard to get to even when the snow's bad. So we just don't have the budgets at a lot of these other sites, like Denver or Dallas, even to keep a staffed engineer that's just assigned to the transmitter operations. It's expensive.
Yeah. Well,
and I'm union,
so there you go.
that hurts even worse for the company. So. But I feel for the company. The company is the most supportive company I've ever worked for in my career. I've done this for almost 40 years now. I've been at NBC 18, and they've just been a great company and a great steward of the community. So
that's great, and that's great to hear that they're so supportive of, like I said, of you and of the community, as a whole. Yeah.
And it wasn't about the site. At one point, they're like, you need to get out of there. What happens, happens. And it's like, no, everything's fine. We're good. And they're looking at the cameras going, no, you're not good. And it's like, well, really we are. And here's what's going on. And they were watching on the cameras in New York, and all of our management was on a call with me, and I explained what the plans were, how it was playing out and everything. And we're good, Everybody keeps their head screwed on straight. We all play the game properly. The end result, here we are, burning a lot of fuel right now, thanks to Edison. But hey, that's what we got them for. I just replaced one of my generators with a new generator. The old one had 700 hours on it. Been here 22 years. The new one has 260 hours on it already and has been here 2 months.
Oh my gosh.
So we're running continuous. AQMD, this might be good information for a lot of people that see this. AQMD has put out a moratorium on hours during this fire. It ends on the 19th, I think. They're signaling they'll extend it if needed. So any hours you ran during this fire do not count towards your 200-hour per year allotment under the Southern California and California Air Quality Management District rules and regulations. So that's good news for a lot of us that are running many hours and looking at our permits going, uh-oh. Yeah. So
yeah, I totally forgot about that. Running those generators with AQMD, going, oh, you only get so many hours before we start racking up the bills.
Yeah, and typically their suggestion is just bring in a rental generator that has hours on it. Well, I've got a 750, a 400, and a 400, so that's you're looking at $5,000 a day in rentals, just to sit here, and that's not going to fly with my people.
No.
They're going, I'm sorry, Dennis, but you got to figure something out. That's
break out the bike and the Yeah.
That's what I was just thinking myself. We get the hand crank out and start cranking.
Gosh, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but thank you.
No,
thank you
okay.
for sitting down with me, talking a little bit, kind of talking about preparedness, and just kind of being aware and doing even the small things to kind of just keep on top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't know if you saw the interview or the where I was talking to our people on air. The big thing about that was it was diverting my attention from the fire.
Mm.
So while that interview was going on, I was watching 32 different cameras to make sure I didn't have a hot spot somewhere. Because the worst thing you can do is not be in tune with your surroundings. As soon as you don't pay attention to your surroundings, you're going to become a liability. Mm-hmm. And that's not what you want to be in the middle of a fire. So it was really important that they're right there on the monitor. I got 32 cameras I'm looking for any little smoke trails. And yeah, everything's fine up here, guys. It's great. All the plans are working perfect, But in general, you got to keep your head screwed on right. And that's in any shape of broadcast engineering. I mean, we used to deal with tubes that had 50,000 volts. If you didn't have your head screwed on right, you probably weren't going to be doing that very long.
Your head wouldn't be screwed on.
So, yeah. And I hear dying that way is very, very, very painful.
Yeah.
And I'm not into anything to do with pain. So being burned or electrocuted or anything like that is not in my playbook, and nor will it ever be in my playbook.
Yeah, that's not a bucket list item there. Thank you very much.
No, I'll skip that chapter. Continue on.
I did share your interview with a couple of non-broadcast friends, and to compliment you, they were very impressed with how calm you sounded. Not like disinterested, but just like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I see the flames. We've got a plan. We're good. Everything's great. And, whereas you could hear the concern of the anchors in the studio going, we see flames. Where are you? Oh, that's my truck right there.
Yeah, Dennis is crazy again, To be honest with you, I've been in this industry a long time, worked a lot of places. A lot of people that probably watch this know me quite well. Some of them probably had the wrath from me. I used to be extremely high-strung, and I used to blow gaskets pretty regularly. And it was always with good intentions, but sometimes way too far. And about 5-10 years ago, one day I was like, that's not getting you anywhere. And I said I shut it off. And it even went into my home life. My wife knew how to push buttons. So there was times she would go to push buttons, and I shut them off. And after a couple of weeks of it, she came up to me and she, what's going on? Nothing. She goes, usually you would be hitting the roof over this. And I said, why? It does no good. It really does no good being Chicken Little or going off. In the end, it does nothing about the problem. So remain calm, relax. It's going to be okay. You're much more efficient diagnosing a problem when you're not wound up. And after I did that, my life's been so much different. And so
that's great.
That's where that comes from. And it was life-changing. It really was. So
yeah. And obviously it's something that helps you to keep your, like you were saying, your head screwed on.
Grounded. Keep you grounded.
In stressful situations like, there's a fire approaching the site.
Yeah. I travel up here. I used to work weekends, which I pretty much refuse to now because it's a zoo up here. And twice a month, I'd come across a motorcycle down, major injuries, guys, not breathing, got to do CPR. You got to get on the radio, try to get somebody in, And I think a lot of that helped too, is you're not efficient in any of that if you don't stop, take a step back, come up with a plan, implement the plan. The plan may not work, but you got to start with something. And that plan will divert into a plan that does work if you're not all worked up. Otherwise, you get all worked up, you try to take that plan that's not going to work and make it work, and you're just wasting time. So I think it's really important for engineers to have that ability to analyze what's going on, almost a second track going in the mind of, you idiot, that ain't going to work. And some of, the whole heart attack thing, kind of off the record, I don't know if you want to use it or not, but I was doing some work at home and changing a computer. It was like 11 o'clock at night. And I'd reached behind the rack and I pulled a muscle in my neck or something. But I was sweating all of a sudden. 62 degrees in the house because I'm cheap. Why am I sweating? Then I noticed my watch was alerting me that my pulse was low. Well, that's a piece of crap, whatever, And so I sat down in the chair. Now, I should have been thinking, I've been trained for this. So I sat down in the chair and closed my eyes, and I faded away. I was gone. The chair broke. I hit a table going down, and it hurt so bad I came back to. And I went, you freaking idiot. You're having a heart attack. And that's when I called 911.
Oh, my gosh.
So we need to make sure that we trust what we're doing and that we listen to ourselves, but we don't also ignore the signs of, hey, this fire is different than the rest. I do need to get out, or I need to go get shelter. Because sometimes if you get that tunnel vision about the problem, you'll never find the answer to the problem because you're so set. And I know what's wrong. Well, no, you don't. So just
wow.
That's how I do things.
Wow. No, that's a great outlook on it too. Yeah.
Yeah. And fortunately, damn chair broke.
Of all the things too.
By the way, my wife bought me a new chair. She's like, I'm getting you a new chair. she happened to be out of town when it happened, so she was pretty
Oh my
freaked
gosh,
out.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Well, glad you're still here with us.
glad to be here. Glad to be with you guys today and talking about this. But hopefully some people can pick up some things that can help them. Hopefully some managers
Yes.
can understand that, yeah, we spend a lot of money as broadcast engineers, but we have to spend that money for you to make money. And I know sometimes you don't want to spend that money, but an example of spending that little bit of extra saved a very large asset.
Yes.
You know, we look at, rebuilding Mount Wilson as an incalculable cost.
Oh my gosh.
Just all the people involved, if we 22 TV stations and 30 some odd radio stations all called Rhodey and said, we need transmitters tomorrow, they're going to be like 3 to 5 years, guys, and, if we all need new towers built and antennas, it's the getting all that done and stuff. It takes a lot. So it's better to protect those assets than to have to even try to make plans on how to replace them.
That would be probably one of the biggest rebuilds, if it were to happen, of broadcast history.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean,
right up there with after 9/11, getting that rebuilt.
And 9/11 was monumental. Looking back on and stuff, like I say, Doug Lung and I, we had some conversations last night, the night before last, and he brought that whole thing up. He was involved in it very closely. Once he could fly, he was on a plane to New York and was there through it all. Wow. And it just, everybody came together as one. There was no, that's so-and-so. We, we're the network. We don't deal with those guys, but no, we're all in this together. We're all broadcast engineers. I'm proud to be a broadcast engineer. I think we have one of the best brotherhoods of people in any industry in the world, and it's really cool to be part of this.
Well, like I said, glad to have you as part of it. Glad to know you. So, and
likewise,
thank you for taking a few moments, or several moments, and talking.
No problem. No problem. It's the least I could do for everyone else. Like I say, if anybody can get anything out of this, then that makes me very happy. And, I've done what I'm here to do.
Great.
So, and thank you. I mean, you bring a lot of good information to a lot of people, and it's really good that people that aren't engineers can really see what we do, because a lot of times, hey, the TV's out and they're mad and they don't understand that you're on a snow plow trying to get up a road that you're probably going to have to walk 5 or 6 miles up in 4 feet of snow. And it's going to be a really bad day for you, but you're doing it because we got to protect our public, and we got to provide our public with what they expect to see.
Well, thank you, Dennis, for being here, for being a part of today's discussion. That's some really good information to do. But thank you again for being here. And thank you for being a part of this channel and for being prepared. That is one of the things you really should do. Now, I did mention in the video about this Wildland Fire basics course. I will put a link to that in the description below. So if you're interested in taking that, I think it's like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours total. But there's several different modules. They're free. And I will say that I learned so much from taking that course about fire behavior. And I am no expert by any means. I do not consider myself a firefighter or anything like that. But it gave me a better appreciation for how fire behaves, how to better protect myself and facilities that I am responsible for. And you might find it helpful too. So anyways, with all that said, Until next time, stay safe. Oh, wait, hang on. If you want to learn more about transmitter sites, here's some transmitter site tours. Here's some studio site tours. And there is a Broadcast Basics playlist on the channel as well if you're interested in learning about the basics of broadcasting. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep learning.